guys here for the LAS debate supervision, the first case up tonight?
No.
Okay.
Which case is that?
That's LAS debate supervision. Concurred with.
I don't know. It's one of which one of these? E4A, E4B, F1A.
Sound. Yeah. And I always wear headphones. And Jeff, literally, I sit here with headphones plugged in, and periodically, every 10, 15 minutes, I come up.
I'd like to call the Wednesday, May 6, 2009 Platting Board meeting to order. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Taylor?
Here.
Clark?
Here.
Roll?
Here.
Dolphin?
Here.
Kay?
Here.
Plunkett?
Here.
Dory?
Here.
Prager?
The next,
There's Ms. Moses.
oops. What again?
Just say it on the
For the record, Ms. Moses is now in attendance. And the next item is approval of action summaries. We have action summaries for March the 23rd, April 1st, April 20th, and April 27th. May I have a positive motion, please? Mr. Clark, and is there a second? Mr. Roll. Is there any discussion? Any objection to the motion? Seeing none, the motion passes and the action summaries are approved. Next item is approval of minutes. We have minutes for Wednesday, April 1st. Mr. Clark? No? Oh, sorry.
Sorry, that was my fault. Because I hadn't done it. Why it's doing this. Tom? For some reason, it's just not letting me record the vote on the minutes, or on the, sorry, on the action summary. On the action summary, and there's the motion. Hey, can you let me do that? Sorry, we didn't make it before. Okay.
I didn't see a motion. Oh, there.
Oh, yeah, it was up there. Sorry about that.
So could I have a positive motion on approval of the minutes, please? Mr. Clark. Is there a second? Ms. Taylor? Any discussion? Seeing none, the minutes are approved. Item C, special order of business. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare? Yes. Ms. Taylor?
On cases, both items B and C on the agenda, case S11496-3 and S10625-9. The petitioner on those is Driftwood Bay LLC, and the subdivision is Eagle Crossing subdivision. In my previous employment in the private sector for professional and technical services, I worked for the petitioner on this subdivision on the matters that are before us tonight, and I feel that that presents a conflict of interest for me participating on those cases this evening.
Could I have a motion on the matter, please?
Madam Chairman,
Mr. Clark?
we need a positive motion asking her to,
The director's president.
okay.
We haven't spoken.
Ms. Stolpe?
I didn't hear what Mr. Clark asked you, and I didn't hear your answer.
He asked what kind of motion we needed. We need a positive motion to direct Ms. Taylor to participate.
So moved.
Is there a second? Mr. Clark? Do you have discussion? Ms. Stolpe?
No, but I think she's made it clear that she's not comfortable participating in the discussion, if I'm understanding her comments correctly. So I would suggest a no vote.
Okay. So we'll vote using the machine. A yes vote will direct her to participate, and a no vote means that she should not. Okay, so we will not participate in those two cases. Which brings us to the consent agenda. And the consent agenda consists of all matters before the board that do not require a public hearing. All items shall be approved by motion without debate. Does any member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda? Seeing none, may I have a positive motion for approval of the consent agenda? Mr. Clark. And Mr. Roll seconds. Is there any objection to the consent agenda? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved. And there is nothing on the agenda under old business, which brings us to new business. And new business consists of the public hearings that we are to hear. And for the public hearings, we're going to follow the procedure that's on the front of the agenda, printed on the front of the agenda. Basically, the chair will introduce the item, and then the staff will give a presentation. And after staff's presentation, the public hearing will open, and persons wishing to testify have to follow the time limits established, and we keep time by the little meter here at the front. Petitioners get 10 minutes and may reserve rebuttal time from that 10. Representative of groups like community councils or PTAs have 5 minutes, and individuals have 3 minutes. The light will be green until there's 1 minute left. It will turn yellow, and when it turns red, you need to sum up. When your testimony is complete, you may be asked questions of the board, and you can only testify once on any issue. Any individual may have appeal rights relating to any action the board takes, and the procedure is outlined on the front of the agenda. So the first case is case S11729-1, Alaska Basin Subdivision. May I have the staff's presentation, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a simple subdivision of one lot into two. The lot is located in Girdwood at the top of Vale Drive. The reason why this is a public hearing, long plat, rather than administratively done short plat, is because the applicant is seeking variances from having to dedicate right-of-way, from having to construct it, and for the lots to abut dedicated right-of-way. The only issue with this plat is whether or not to have to construct this common access easement. There's no development proposed at this time, so it doesn't make sense to require the construction of this common access easement. Rather, the Planning Department is recommending that an agreement be executed and filed with the Planning Department, Fire Department, and PM&E for the construction of that easement or driveway when development goes forward on either of these two lots. The Planning Department recommends approval for the variances. This is because the property is affected by very steep topography. The municipality has no interest in maintaining a driveway that leads to three very hilly lots. The department recommends approval of the plat, subject to conditions 1 through 9 on pages 7 and 9 of the packet. be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Are there any questions of staff? Ms. Plunkett?
On the stream, in the recommendations, it lists 25 feet on both sides of the stream, yet the recommendation or the comment number 11 on page 4 from the on-site water and wastewater services refers to, I think that's what it was, to 50, it referred to 50 feet somewhere. It's on page 3, number 4.
Through the chair, Ms. Plunkett, that's correct. Project management, engineering, stream, watershed management services would like to see a wider stream maintenance and protection easement. There's something that this may be proposed in the future Title 21, but it's not something that exists in code today, and we couldn't require that. If the petitioner offered it, then they could do that, but they haven't, and we don't have we're bound by the existing code, not a future code.
Any other questions of staff? Seeing none, could we have the petitioner's presentation, please?
Madam Chairman, members of the board, my name is Tony Hoffman. I work for Landtech, and we're representing the petitioner, Mr. Rock Bodine, and his wife in the back there on this case before you. This is a pretty straightforward lot split, a very large lot, and we believe that the conditions are fair, and we've actually worked with the municipality a little bit to get them where they are. And I believe it's a good development, actually. So we don't have any comments, or we have no issues with the conditions as they're written. And I'd like to reserve the rest of my time.
9 minutes, 25 seconds.
Okay.
Anyone else wishing to testify? Oh, wait a minute, sorry. Are there any questions of Mr. Hoffman? No questions. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anyone else wishing to testify in case S11729-1, Alyeska Basin? Anyone at all? Seeing none, Mr. Hoffman, do you have anything else you want to add? Okay. Then the public hearing is closed. Are there any questions of staff? Seeing none, then could we have a positive motion on the variances, please? Mr. Clark.
In the matter of case number S-11729-1,
Yeah.
Sorry about that. In the matter of S-11729-1, Alyeska Basin Subdivision Unit 7B, I move for approval of the variance from AMC 21.80.30.A, design standards, lot frontage and access, and 21.80.101, dedicated streets, and 21.85, Table C, strip, paved, and gravel streets minimum standards.
Ms. Stolpe seconds. Mr. Clark, would you speak to your motion, please?
I intend to support the motion. I think that the staff has done a good job, and the developer is in agreement with the recommendations.
Any other discussion? Any objection to the motion? Seeing none, the motion passes and the variances are approved. Moving on to the plat.
In the matter of S-11729-1, Alyeska Basin Subdivision Unit 7B, I move for approval of the plat for 18 months, subject to conditions 1 through 9 in our packet.
Is there a second? Ms. Plunkett. Mr. Clark, would you speak to your motion?
I intend to support the motion for the reasons given previously.
Any objection to the motion? Seeing none, the motion passes, and the plat is approved for 18 months. And let the record reflect that Ms. Taylor is free for the evening.
May I join Ms. Taylor?
Let the record reflect no. Separate, I guess. I can ask staff. Are they? Margaret's? Margaret, we have a question, or do we combine these or hear them separately?
Madam Chair, yeah, I'm on. Madam Chair, yes, they could be combined, but they're two slightly different requests. So I would like to go into make two little presentations.
Okay. Hold on. Yeah. I'll hear them separately, I guess, since there's two different things. So we will go forward with separate cases. The first of the two is case S11496-3, Eagle Crossing subdivision. May we have the staff's presentation, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request for modification of the phase plan, subdivision agreement, and standard of construction for Eagle River Lane to allow construction in the year 2011 and to allow a walkway on one rather than both sides of a portion of Eagle River Lane. This case is before you following an August 6, 2008 public hearing wherein the Platting Board granted approval to allow construction of Eagle River Lane in 2009. There were a number of conditions on that approval. There are three conditions listed on page 4 that deal with the construction of Eagle River Lane and specified the year 2009. There is also conditions on page 5 because the Platting Board added a condition 25 that established a timeline for the submission of construction drawings, submission of a financial guarantee, and submission of the final plans for the construction of Eagle River Lane. Now, the petitioner, in attempting to meet this timeline, did do a field survey of this section of Eagle River Lane, which extends from Highland Ridge Drive up to Ptarmigan Boulevard, and that was conducted in December of 2008. The results of the survey showed that the topography along this northern portion of Eagle River Lane is very steeply sloped, and that limited the ability to construct the required improvements within the existing right-of-way. It was found that the road could not be constructed as designed by and shown on the engineered drawings that had been given to the current owner of the petition site by the previous owner of Eagle Crossing Development. Another problem that was uncovered is that there is not a full right-of-way width for a portion of that northern section of Eagle River Lane. It extends 340 feet south of Ptarmigan Boulevard. In 2000, when the Platting Board did require construction of Eagle River Lane, it was assumed that there was a 60-foot wide right-of-way that was made up of half dedication and half a 30-foot section line easement. It turns out that there is an unsubdivided lot, and there is no section line easement on that unsubdivided lot. And the owner who was approached by the petitioner is unwilling to grant an easement for the construction of a portion of Eagle River Lane. Now, Eagle River Lane has been designated on the official streets and highways plan as a collector road since 1996. The municipality in this instance may have to enter into negotiations with the property owner in order to acquire additional right-of-way, either through a public use easement, access easement, but it looks like the municipality will have to become involved. This construction of Eagle River Lane has, just brief history, has been an issue since it was originally, the plat was originally before the board in 2000. The owner at that time had proposed to construct Eagle River Lane in 2001, extending from Ptarmigan Boulevard. The reason for that is where the water was to be extended from. However, the neighbors at the public hearing were very concerned about that connection being made, and the Platting Board deferred to the concerns of the neighborhood and required that it be constructed in 2007. However, in 2002, the previous owner of Eagle Crossing came forward to the Platting Board and asked for the phase plan to be amended again to require it to be constructed in 2003. The Platting Board did approve. There wasn't testimony at that public hearing stating objection, and a subdivision agreement was executed with private development, and the work was never done. So the previous owner sold the property to the current owner in 2004. So the previous owner has been trying to deal with this since that time. Now, there is a recognized concern to have a second access given the development of the level of development in Eagle Crossing, and the written comments that were received did express that concern that were included in the packet. However, the applicant and the representative of the applicant have been meeting periodically with private development and other municipal staff trying to resolve some of the problems that have arisen from the most recent the survey and from the lack of a full right-of-way width. The most recent meeting was on April 28th of this year, and a compromise was discussed. Because the municipality will have to become involved in acquiring adequate right-of-way, there was a temporary access should be constructed this year. It would include grading. It would include providing a gravel roadbed that could support emergency response vehicles. It would include drainage improvements to get the water off the roadway and to resolve some of the ice over problems that have been occurring. And possibly, as requested by the neighborhood, a gate, but that would be subject to the approval of the fire marshal. And the compromise discussed at that meeting with all of the reviewing agencies that provided written comments, that concession supersedes the written comments. There wasn't enough time after that meeting to get the packet to the board and receive written comments. Staff just had time to rewrite the case. So there was, although it wasn't requested, the department, in reviewing all of the issues related to this construction of Eagle River Lane, does recommend elimination of condition 25, which established a timeline. The timeline could not have been met due to the lack of adequate right-of-way and the discovery that the engineered plans could not be used, and new engineered plans would have to be developed based on the field survey. So the department is recommending that that timeline condition be removed for the reason that if it remains on the approval, it would show that the applicant is out of conformance with the conditions, but they couldn't meet that condition anyway, so it's recommended that that be removed. And it's also recommended approval of the request to modify condition amending the sequencing of the phases to require construction of the section of Eagle River Lane from Highland Ridge Drive to the northern connection point to interim emergency access roadway, in 2009 with full build-out to urban standards to follow no later than 2011. Another condition had to be modified because it stated the year 2008, and that's on page 6 of the packet. And there is an added condition because there is a removal of a sidewalk on one side of Eagle River Lane. The applicant has agreed to provide an alternate trail connection to the Ravenwood School. So that is added to the conditions of approval to include in the subdivision agreement. And recommends approval of the condition 8 that was originally placed on the previous case S11496 to change the date, and recommends approval of the elimination of condition 25. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Seeing none?
Madam Chair.
Whoops. You weren't on that.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Ms. Stolpe.
Thank you. I always forget about this. Thank you.
Ms. O'Brien, there's some things that I don't understand here, and before we start the public hearing, I thought maybe if we went through a couple of them, I could maybe understand it better. I went through the packet, I thought, pretty carefully, but if there's a problem constructing a road, Eagle River Lane, because of the various circumstances that you mentioned, one being the owner that didn't want to sell, then where is this road going to go? The emergency road is going, where is the emergency road going to go?
The Chair, Ms. Stolpe, the emergency road will go within the 30-foot dedication that was provided with the Eagle Crossing development, and it is dedicated, the west half is dedicated, it's dedicated to a 30-foot width.
And that would be the width then of an emergency road?
That is correct. It would meet the fire department regulations of a minimum 26-foot wide with 2-foot shoulders.
Okay, and if I have a couple more questions, if I may. Could you help me understand a little more about this gate? Is when I think of a gate, and particularly in those circumstances, I'm assuming that the purpose of the gate is to prevent traffic moving through there except for the fire department vehicles?
Through the Chair, Ms. Stolpe, that is correct. The fire department will be able to get through the gate in the event of emergency where there had to be a second access, like a wildfire, then the fire department would be able to open the gate for traffic to move 2 ways out of the subdivision.
So the only access, the fire department would be the only entity, so to speak, rather than any individuals to open that gate in order to allow people to use the road in case of an emergency.
To the chair, to the board, my name is Don Kiefer. I'm private development manager at PM&E, and the discretion to put in the gate would actually rest with the fire marshal. But if they decided to put in the gate, it would be open to emergency vehicles only, of course. But if it was decided not to put in a gate, that would be because even the interim access roadway was considered safe enough for the general public. So it all boils down to the final design of the interim roadway design, whether or not we view it at that point something we can open to the general public.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Kiefer. And then just one other question, Madam Chair. This development was started with the previous owner in 2000, the year 2000, I think you just said. And it's now 9 years later. And as I understand it, there is still one way to get in and out of the subdivision.
Through the chair, Ms. Stolpe, that's correct. And as originally approved by the Platting Board, they approved it to be constructed in 2007.
So here we are. And I intended to go back and reread this. Am I incorrect that there are 800 homes in that subdivision?
Through the chair, Ms. Dopey, there are 800 homes from Eagle River Loop. That includes the, it includes all the subdivisions that exist to the east, to the west of Eagle Crossing.
So all of the traffic from all of those homes, should there be an emergency, are funneled
to Eagle River Loop Road
only? And
Yes.
so that's their only way to move out, all the residents of 800 homes?
Through the chair, Ms. Dopey, that's correct.
Thank you. Any other questions of staff? Seeing none, we'll open the public hearing, and would the petitioner please come forward?
Madam Chair, my name is David Grenier with Triad Engineering, and with your permission, I'd like to hand out a couple exhibits that may help us here. Thank you. With me this evening is Mr. Rick Davidge with Driftwood Bay LLC, and Ms. Connie Yoshimura, who is the general manager of Driftwood LLC. She wanted me to apologize for her absence this evening due to an illness. The issue before you tonight is based on the approval of time extensions that were granted in August of last year. We were contacted by Driftwood Bay to work on this section of road to meet the initial time frame and timeline for the submittal of the plans. And as staff has said, part of that process was to do an as-built on-the-ground survey of the existing situation. And what you have in front of you tonight, the second page, shows the actual topo that was taken. The issue that we ran into is in the section, the upper 500 feet or the northerly 500 feet from Ptarmigan to the south on Eagle River Lane. The issues that we ran into is the topographic features with the width of the road that is required under the existing conditions would create retaining walls in the range of 15 plus feet, and to get the sidewalks on both sides, a bike path on one side and a sidewalk on the other. So we approached PM&E to address the issue if we could eliminate one of those sidewalks so that we'd be able to get the improvements in, with the understanding when we did what's called Phase J, and if you look on your map, it's tract F11A. There is an opportunity for a trail up to Ravenwood Elementary School through that tract. So we would end up with the intent of still getting pedestrian traffic to the school. The other issue that came up when we started into our design was the lack of a section line easement for the parcel that is labeled unsubdivided on your parcel. It has the red line around it. That particular parcel never had a section line easement dedicated on it. Therefore, we only have half of a right-of-way. We have approached the owner of that parcel, who at this time is not willing to dedicate nor sell that parcel. So we've got some negotiation to do on that issue, and we will need some help from the municipality to make that occur. One other note: the second exhibit shows that a water line that was actually installed is in trespass, and this is another issue that we're going to have to work through. As far as the timing of this road, this was part of a phase plan, and the original phasing plan showed this section of road, this second access, to be required to be built in 2007. What has happened, all the phases have shifted. There has been no additional development beyond the phases that the original platting action called for. So it's basically a shift, a slowdown in the timing and the development of this project. So it's not like we're not creating this secondary access. We agree that it's needed, and working with staff, we feel that we can open up a emergency access gravel road this season, this summer, which will address the concerns of the fire and also of traffic and PM&E. So the solution that we're looking at is basically to provide a secondary gravel access which would support emergency vehicles. It would be gated or not gated. That would be depending on either the board's direction or what the fire department has stated or would like. We would like to have extension to 2011, which will give us time to resolve these issues, not only with the municipality, but the surrounding neighbors and the adjacent property owner. Also, as part of that, there is a state grant request for the section of Eagle River Lane from Ptarmigan up to Eagle River Road. And that is one of the highest priorities of a high priority of the Community Council, the Chugiak Eagle River section. And what we really need to do is coordinate that design with this design. There's a lot of pedestrian traffic, especially at Ptarmigan, and so we feel like this time is needed, this extension is needed to work out those two designs and have a cohesive project. With that, I'd like to answer any questions and reserve any time.
We have 4 minutes.
Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Grenier? Thank you.
Okay.
Anyone wishing to testify in case S11496-3?
Madam Chairman, my name is B.G. Hanaway, and for the last 43 years I have occupied the corner of Eagle River Lane and Ptarmigan Boulevard. And I certainly support this time extension to solve all the major problems. As has been identified, the previous contractor has done inadequate planning, and he is currently, along with the municipality, is in trespass on my property, along with that 12-inch water main that's been installed on my east side of my property. I note here that in flood hazard review, under page 2, the flood hazard review has no comment on this case. I'm here to tell you, in April of '71, the back portion of my property, which is a drainage from Ptarmigan all the way down through to and including the Eagle River Lane extension, for 1.5 days there was over 5 feet of water. And I don't know how many times I have addressed this to different councils and different committees, and I have yet to see it in writing once. Would you assure me, Madam Chairman, that these comments are registered and are noted and made a matter of record? May I have that assurance?
Yes.
Thank you. As the city and the previous contractor is in trespass on my property with that water line, and the previous contractor's attitude as to we don't care what you as an individual and others in the community are saying or doing. We're going to go and do what we have to do. We're going to bulldoze this extension line through, period. Now that was the previous contractor. I'm here to make a matter of record that we are very pleased with the current contractor and the efforts that he is and his group are doing to solve the many problems that we have with my property. As far as resolving the development, the revegetation, I'm here to tell you that I've already lost an additional 2.5 to 3 feet depth of property that has sloughed from where this water line was extended, and it has blocked one of my neighbor's drives, so he had to call somebody, a contractor or the right-of-way commission, to come out and clear his roadway, the Eagle River Lane extension. Now that's just one of the problems, but there is tremendous problems with this flood hazard. This is a running creek that runs year-round, and I have noted on the different maps that there's a 130-foot creekside easement that crosses my property, crosses Eagle River Lane, and goes on down. And there is weeping of water at the present road grade level that freezes in the wintertime, and that is going to have to be addressed, along with the freezing of this creek, which glaciates and flows downhill. These are major, major hazards. I have lived on the corner of Eagle River Lane and Ptarmigan Boulevard for the last 43 years. And from the time that you leave Raven Boulevard on the north side of Eagle River Lane, coming down the hill, I will attest there's been dozens of cars hitting glaciation that couldn't be addressed, and they wind up in one of my ditches. So there is major problems, and I certainly support the time extension to let the developer do the required work and do it the right way. It's been ongoing, but the previous contractor could say, hey, you guys don't matter. Well, we do matter. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Mr. Hanaway. Are there any questions for Mr. Hanaway? Mr. Clark. Mr. Hanaway, could you come forward, please? We have a question for you.
Say again?
We have a question for you.
Yes.
Through the chair, Mr. Hanover, you said that you had 5 feet of water in 1971. Is that correct?
Say again?
You said that that occurred in 1971 when you had 5 feet of water on your property?
Yes.
Has that happened since then?
Not to my knowledge, because back in '66, when I first bought the property, I went down in the middle of the ravine that's behind my house and set in a 5-foot culvert, went down 10 feet on flowing springs, and set a culvert, set a pump, set a couple of hydrocells, insulated the water line, and that's what I used until '71.
Okay, so that's...
The wife called and says, Bill, there's something wrong with the toilet. So I came home, went down, and that's when I discovered the 5 feet of water, and it lasted for approximately a day and a half.
So but you resolved that problem?
Yes, I had a well drilled.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, indeed. I would like to add that all along the north border of Ptarmigan Boulevard acts as a catch basin. And there's a ravine that flows east and west, flows west along Ptarmigan Boulevard, cuts across the rear section of my property, and drains onto Eagle River Lane, south of my property. And that water runs year-round.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to testify in case S11496-3? Anyone at all? Please come forward.
Good evening, Madam Chair. My name is Nathan Cousino. Thank you for hearing me. I currently don't reside in the area any longer. However, I did grow up in the area there, and I too am in favor of the extension for the 3 years of completing this project. You know, when back in my senior year of high school, I spent a lot of time at these town meetings trying to see what was happening to my neighborhood. And I remember in 1998, there was an engineering study that was paid for by MOA to go ahead and look at some of these different routes that were available to get into Eagle Crossing. Now, of the 7 or 8 choices that ended up being selected at the end, Eagle River Lane was towards the bottom of this selection. All of a sudden, one morning, we have a road pushed through after being 5th or 6th on the list of about 8 different choices. Eagle River Lane, out of all the choices that were available, had the most public opposition. I remember at one meeting that was specified in the report, there was 22 oppositions against putting Eagle River Lane here and about 3 people for it. And at that time, there's only about 5 of us houses on Eagle River Lane, so there's quite a bit of neighborhood opposition against this. I think part of the concern comes from the fact that us as residents, we have not even seen a proposal by the municipality as to what the scope of this project is. We have heard from a couple different people, individuals, the developer, that this is in a collector road, and by specifications of a collector road, it's quite a large road. All our zoning in our area is R6 zoning, which is not something that our neighborhood is prepared for if this is to become a collector road. However, we have people that are sitting on the Eagle River Valley Community Council telling us the road is to be 40 feet wide, which is far different than a collector road is. So I think part of the problem lies in the fact that we haven't even seen a map yet showing what the scope of this project is. Not to mention that, but as Mr. Hanaway spoke about, there's a lot of drainage issues and safety issues as well. Not to mention the fact that there's grade issues that are involved in becoming a collector road, grades that are excessive of 10%. And also, referring back to that 1998 engineering study, some of the proposals that were approved at the time as being good proposals and the ideal place to put a road because of easement issues weren't chosen. However, since that time, it seems that some of these easement issues have been resolved and that some of these other options may be available for looking at in becoming a second alternative route into Eagle Crossing. So for now, I think with some of these questions remaining unanswered, I think that the 3-year delay should be necessary as far as providing a second entrance in Eagle Crossing at Eagle River Lane until we see a proposed scope of the project. Thank you.
Any questions for Mr. Cossino? Mr. Clark, did you have a question?
Yeah. So you're in favor of the extension in order to see if there's going to be an alternative access approved. Is that correct?
I guess yes. At this moment, I understand that there is a need for emergency access in there, and I'm not against emergency access. But I think, in light of things happening, this road was proposed back in 1998. That was the earliest, to my knowledge, that this road was proposed. 11 years later, we're now finding out that there are studies that were faulty, resulting in bad studies and kind of bad decisions in pushing this road through, as well as easement issues and Mr. Hanaway's lot there that was not subdivided. And frankly, I think quite a few of the residents are kind of nervous that these issues are coming out 11 years later. What kind of repercussions are there going to be if we do not take the time to resolve some of these issues in finding out what is going on? Another issue that I should bring up too is referring back to some of the people of the community council, some of the board members. It appears that, from what I understand, the road at Eagle River Lane does not even sit centered on the section line. So if you're going to be taking extra feet from both sides of the road, are you going to be taking this evenly from the center line that is there now? Or are you going to be taking this footage from the true section line if the road is actually offset from the section line, as I've been told it has been?
Madam Chair?
Not something we can answer, so.
Okay. Yeah.
Mr. Clark?
Well, I have a question, but I don't think it's of this
Okay.
gentleman.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cossino.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to testify in case S11496-3, Eagle River Crossing? Anyone at all? If not, the public hearing is closed and the matter rests with the board. Oh, except, okay, it's not closed. I was mistaken. Mr. Grenier, would you like to use your rebuttal time?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a few brief comments. we have started working with the community council on these issues, and we see this time extension have given us time not only work with the council but with the adjacent property owner and with staff. There are some significant challenges with this alignment, and we feel it is appropriate to have the time to work on this. Happy to answer any other questions.
Any questions for Mr. Grenier? Mr. Roll.
Sure, I have a question. I'm just curious if you have any information about the flooding potential in this area. Do you have any knowledge of that?
We're aware of the drainage easements that are required, and one issue that has come up in discussions with PM&E is drainage down Eagle River Lane from Eagle River Road itself. The improvements that will be made will increase that drainage, and so we know that there's wetlands in the area. We know where they are identified, and there are significant springs that pop up and glaciering that in the area. So, yes, it's top of our list to keep in mind.
Mr. Clark.
Yes, sir. Through the chair, is the part of this process going to be looking to see if an alternative route is better situated for this use?
At this point, we're just going with the conditions that have been put on the plat. We became involved with this project in September of last year. I'd have to defer that to Mr. Davidge. He may have some information on that.
Madam Chairman, a couple of things. Yes, we're looking at broader issues with respect to secondary access, but we believe, the owners believe, and their instructions to me as project manager are to ensure that we provide emergency access on Eagle River Lane, provided we can resolve the problems of the property owner, which we've been working with very, very well. But we're looking at a broader question of secondary access to the overall development, because approximately half of it is yet even to be roughed in. I'd like to get back just briefly to your question on the water problem. Previously, I served as Director of Water and Chief of the Alaska Hydrologic Survey for the state of Alaska. And Mr. Grenier and I have been looking at these problems in that area very carefully. And so that's part of our question with respect to the design changes that we think are necessary to provide a responsible access and egress.
Any other questions for Mr. Grenier? Mr. Clark.
The purpose of my question was just to let the public know that this approval doesn't say that there's going to be any other access reviewed for this, and I wanted to just make sure everybody was clear on that.
Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Grenier.
Thank you.
Now I think the public hearing is closed, and the matter rests with the board. Can we have a positive motion, please? Ready, please? Mr. Clark.
Madam Chairman, in the case of S-11496-3, Eagle Crossing subdivision, I move to approve of the request for modifications of condition A1 that states condition 2A of the approved plan. To approve the department recommendations 1 through 4 in our packet.
Second. Ms. Moses seconds. Mr. Clark, would you speak to your motion?
I intend to support the motion. I believe the time extension is appropriate in this case.
Any other discussion?
Madam Chairman.
Ms. Stolpe.
I'm not going to support the motion, just as I didn't support it last year. And that is because I have grave concern, as I expressed last year, that we have one way in and out for 800 residences. I don't even know what that'd be, 2,000-3,000 people. And I mean, I could go into all the reasons why that causes me concern. You know, there's a whole variety of naturally occurring problems that we have in the state as far as earthquakes and fires and so on. And this property, as I understand it, I could be off on some of these years, but as I understand it, this property was starting to be developed in around 2000. And the Platting Board has routinely agreed to put off a second exit out of this neighborhood or a second entry into this neighborhood for emergency vehicles. And I just think that that's not reasonable planning. It's, I mean, I didn't go along with it. I didn't go along with it last year because I thought it was time for the developer to move along. I understand that times are difficult economically, but I don't think that's reason enough to put this off one more time. And it isn't just for a year this time, it's 3 years. It just doesn't make sense to me, and I'm dismayed that the Platting Board, or really any other board or commission, would be put in a position of having to regularly approve delaying something that should have been done many years ago. So I won't be supporting it. Thank you.
Ms. Moses?
I intend to support the motion and will somewhat reiterate my comments from before that, in my opinion, the property owner, the petitioner, they've acknowledged that there are, you know, that this is not an ideal situation. However, there are significant hurdles, and quite frankly, it's going to be impossible to correct them within the timeline that without this extension. So we can, as a board, somewhat in response to Board Member Stolpe's comments, we can, you know, it was said that, you know, the Planning Board has consistently extended this. With the information that is brought forth, there really is no other choice. And I would like to go on record by saying that the petitioner has, in my opinion, has tried to clearly identify the hurdles and put forth solutions to them, but they're going to be time-consuming and difficult. And I just don't see any other option here, because this cannot be corrected in this time that there are constraints that exist. It's going to be impossible.
Ms. Plunkett?
I too, from looking at it, feel that that the time constraints that was put on last year are not reasonable to get a good road built. As long as we do have the interim emergency access road that's listed on here by this year, so that there is another way in and out based on however the fire department deems whether it's open or not, then I'm okay with the approval.
Thank you. Mr. Clark?
It just occurs to me that if we do not grant this approval, then there will be no means for this action to be taken and the secondary egress done. So if we, at this point, whether we agree with what happened in the past or not, if we ignore that and don't approve this, then we're going to have people without secondary access forever.
Mr. Roll?
I agree with the comments so far, supporting the motion, and I intend to support the motion as well. Along with Mr. Clark's recent statement, I also agree with that, and I really feel that this is the best solution right now to help improve the public safety. So.
Thank you, Mr. Roll. Any other comments? There is objection, so we will be voting mechanically. So if you would please vote. Yes vote approves the requests, and no vote disapproves. That motion passes, and the requests are approved. The next case, same subdivision, case S10625-9, Eagle Crossing subdivision. Can we have the staff's presentation, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the original case that was approved. S10625 was originally approved in 2000, and this is the ninth action on this particular case. Basically, it's largely the same request, except that this is a time extension for a subdivision agreement 2006-23. There was not a subdivision agreement that has been executed in the prior case. However, there is a subdivision agreement that was granted a one-year time extension last year, and this request is to grant a time extension for that subdivision agreement. Again, one of the issues related to this particular case is that Watershed Management submitted comments that requiring a revised condition of approval that revegetation and/or stabilization of disturbed soils shall be installed this year. And there is an amendment request for that to have it occur in 2009 rather than 2008. Also, there was a time frame that was established for the time extension for the subdivision agreement. It is the same time frame that was established for the prior case. So basically, the second part of the request is a modification of an original condition placed on the very first plat that required the sidewalk on both sides of Eagle River Lane for between Highland Ridge Drive and Ptarmigan. And that is the one that is being requested to have only one sidewalk in order to accommodate all the municipal improvements in the existing right-of-way. Traffic, Fire, and PM&E had no objection to amending the condition to allow just one sidewalk. And again, the conditions of approval for this request for the subdivision agreement, 2006-0023, not as stated on page 6, there is a typographical error, is to amend a condition that requires revegetation by August 28, 2009. And it is basically the same amendments on the prior case. That includes the elimination of the condition that established the time frame. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Ms. O'Brien. Are there any questions for staff? Mr. Roll?
I just have one question through the chair. Can you clarify comment 1A regarding the revegetation of the soils? There's the two dates, July 17th, 2009, for revegetating the exposed soils, and that makes sense to me, but I don't understand what the second date is. All areas requiring vegetation. What's the difference between those two?
Through the chair, Mr. Roll, the first one states the need to revegetate all soils in the subdivision under the developer's control. I believe that is a request by Watershed Management to have the developer come forward and resolve and determine those areas that do need to be revegetated, and that should be done by July 17th. so that would allow enough time for the revegetation that is to be finalized by August 28th, 2009.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of staff? Seeing none, the public hearing is open. Can we hear from the petitioner, please?
Madam Chairman, my name is Rick Davies. I'm project manager for this project. I'm also the SWEP plan author and compliance person for this project. And I would suggest that watershed management may not have been on there since spring of last year, because 90% of all the disturbed soils have been revegetated successfully. The only areas that haven't are the active waste storage, waste dump and storage area for waste materials, that's just dirt in a fill area. About 3/4 of that have been revegetated. The extension of Eagle River Lane, which has been under planning and be developed, and as you can see, we've been trying to figure out how to solve that problem. There's some areas there that need to be revegetated, but it didn't make sense to revegetate until we knew what we were going to dig up or not dig up. And we have one area in one phase, which is currently last week gone through a complete redesign out of concern for wetlands in the area. That will be dealt with this year and be revegetated. So by the end of this growing season, 99% of the area will be completely revegetated.
Madam Chair, I'm David Grenier, Triad Engineering. A few comments. First off, we concur with staff's recommendations. The second would be, as far as secondary access, there is looped access within the development itself. If you look on page 14 of your packet, Driftwood Bay actually is connected back to itself by way of Highland Ridge Drive. And so there is, from Driftwood Bay, you can head in a northwesterly direction along Eagle River Lane, and then that actually is constructed to Highland Ridge Drive, which connects back to Driftwood Bay. So within the confines of Eagle Crossing itself, there is looped or second access. You can come back. The issue, and one that we recognize, is that Driftwood Bay is the only road that comes into this area. We will work on the secondary access this summer, and in fact, as soon as the ground thaws, we can get in there and start doing our work in conjunction with working with PM&E. So with that, we'll answer any questions.
Okay, you have 7 minutes and 24 seconds for rebuttal. Mr. Clark.
I've got a couple of questions, if I may. First off, it's my understanding that over the period of time, there's supposed to be 800 properties, more or less, in this whole area. Is that correct?
I believe that number is all the way to Eagle River Loop Road.
Right, I understand.
Correct.
That's being basically drained by that one outlet at this time.
Correct.
However, that's if everything's built out. How many properties, more or less, are there at this time?
I'd have to defer to staff on that. I'm not sure what the total number is. I know that the development of Eagle Crossing itself is significantly less than what was approved as far as the density goes.
Through the chair, Mr. Clark, there are currently 800 occupied lots, and that's based on, that's all the way to Eagle River Loop Road.
Okay.
That includes more than one subdivision. The occupancy count, when it was approved for 788 in Eagle Crossing. I don't have a count on specifically how many occupied dwelling units there are at Eagle Crossing.
All right, thank you. That's one of my questions.
If I may, I would just point out that, Rick Davies again, in the overall scope of Eagle Crossing, we have already begun a process of redesigning a number of areas because, frankly, they were over-lotted, if you will. And, for example, Phase G in its redesign has reduced that number of lots rather significantly. So I think overall the number of lots within Eagle Crossing are going to be far less than what was originally approved, simply out of the knowledge that we get of understanding the wetlands, the topography, and the ability to safely build good lots.
My next question is for Mr. Davidge. From your comments, I got the impression that you were not in agreement with all these recommendations by staff.
No, I have no problem with the recommendation because I'm 90% in compliance already.
All right.
So I don't have a problem with that recommendation at all. Okay. What I wanted to correct was the suggestion that it had not been revegetated.
Okay.
It has in fact been revegetated by at least 95% now.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Grenier? Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to testify in case S10625-9? Anyone at all? Seeing none, Mr. Grenier, would you like to say anything additional? Okay. Thank you. So the public hearing is closed and the matter rests with the board. Could I have a positive motion on one or both of the requests? Mr. Clark. Well, there's an approval of a 3-year time extension and approval of elimination of. Mr. Clark, could you turn your mic on?
Excuse me. I can hear myself perfectly all right. He can hear me. In the case of S-10625-9 Eagle Crossing subdivision, I move for approval of both recommendations, 1 and 2, as outlined in our packet.
Ms. Stope, seconds. Mr. Clark, would you speak to your motion, please?
I move to endorse the recommendations, to support them. I think that theirs makes perfect sense with our previous actions.
Any other discussion? Any objection to the motion? Seeing none, the motions pass, and we have approved a 3-year time extension to the subdivision agreement with amended conditions, and approved the elimination of condition 2 placed on case S10625-8. Thank you. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hanlon. Any appearance requests? Persons to be heard? Reports? Comments? Motion to adjourn. Mr. Roll. Mr. Clark, seconds. Any objection? Gotta. Okay, we're done.